Today's sponsor is Casper Mattresses, obsessively engineered American-made mattresses at a shockingly fair price. And now you, because you're a listener to this podcast, can get $50 toward any mattress by purchase by going to casper.com/test and using code TEST. We spend about a third of our life sleeping, and let's make sure we're doing it on a good mattress. Casper brings together two comfy technologies for better nights and brighter days: latex foam and memory foam. So they got the right amount of sink and the right bounce no matter how you sleep. They've also got a risk-free trial and return policy. Deliver straight to you, and you can try it for 100 days, and if you're not happy, they'll actually pick it back up as well. It's $500 for a twin-size mattress and $950 for a king-size mattress. Comparing that to industry averages, it's actually a pretty great price point. So get $50 toward any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/test and using the code TEST. Thanks.
Hey, let's start the show.
It's June 2nd, 2015. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Norman Chan, it's just you and me today.
Wow, that was a star wipe.
I had to really look to find the star wipe. It's in here. It took a lot of finding. Hold on, I'm switching back now. It's stuck. Ooh. It's on you the whole time. How you doing this morning, sir?
It's all right.
You have been back and forth to LA a couple of times for some Comic-Con related business.
Comic-Con is next week.
I can't believe that Comic-Con is next week.
It usually is not this early in July.
Yeah, it snuck up on us. It usually is like the next week, isn't it? Like the second or third week in July?
Second or third week in July.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure why. It's basically the first full week of July, but so it goes.
Bad craziness. Do you feel ready for Comic-Con? Are you mentally prepared?
No.
What is your Comic-Con preparation? This is, what, your 10th or 12th Comic-Con probably?
11th, right in the middle.
So what's your strategy? What's your prep like? Do you like carb load going into this? Do you like do extra walking to tone your calf muscles? Are you renting some sort of like? Are you taking an electric skateboard? Anything like that?
Dr. Scholl's.
You just insoles.
Just gelling.
You know, I ruined my favorite pair of tennis shoes before my first Comic-Con by ripping out the stock insoles.
Why would you rip them out?
Because it was they were like Adidas street soccer shoes.
So too tall.
So it made my foot not fit. So I ripped the insoles out, and now they're all lumpy and kind of crappy, and I'm sad.
That's very unfortunate.
It made me really sad. So don't do that if you put insoles in. Sunscreen? You sunscreen up for your walk across the street?
No. Not really.
What's your like? Do you like really hydrate beforehand?
Hydrate throughout.
Yeah.
Hydrate throughout. Bring lots of extra changes of clothes.
Socks.
Lots of socks. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't need to buy too many T-shirts because you may find T-shirts there that you can just buy and change into. But socks, you always need extra pairs of socks and underwear.
The best thing to do is like, at the end of the day, before you go out for the night, is to come back to your hotel room, fill the tub up with water as hot as you can stand it, put your feet in there.
We're in a drought.
You just have to put 3 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going up to your calves. Just let them soak for about 10 minutes, as hot as you can stand it. Then put on a pair of clean socks, clean underwear, clean T-shirt, go back out.
That feels pretty good.
It's nice. It's a kind of a power nap situation
for your feet.
Did you see that selfie sticks got banned?
Selfie sticks are not only banned at Comic-Con, they're banned in Disneyland.
Why?
Fantastic decision, because they're a hazard.
Because people whack each other with them?
Whack each other in the face with them.
A big giant phablet on the end of a selfie stick could do some serious damage. It's like a Morningstar flail.
Let's get longer arms.
It's like this one? We have a friend who exclusively posts pictures on Instagram like this. You just see arms and then faces. You know who it is.
I don't know who it is.
Well, we'll talk about it later. I don't want to narc her out on the podcast.
But you're not supposed to show your whatever.
I
Selfie sticks not part of It's a new rule. There are new technologies. No drones or quadcopters. No RC multi-rotors.
Who's going to take a quadcopter inside Comic-Con?
Not inside, but I think even on.
Can't even fly them outside?
I don't think you should fly them outside.
Well, there's too many people.
Yeah.
It's ill-advised.
That's exactly why.
That's generally good advice. If you are a tested premium member and you're coming to Comic-Con, or if you're just anybody and coming to Comic-Con, we're having a party on Friday night.
We are.
I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast yet.
Next Friday night at 9 p.m.
Yes. 8 p.m. if you're a premium member.
If you're a premium member, you get to come in early. It will be an awesome party. It's at the Flux Bar in San Diego. That's FLUXX. That's
fifth
one
and
X
something.
away from being inappropriate, but two X's in Flux.
When I was a kid, 2 X's indicated a level of filth, smut, between 3 X's and 1 X. Like there were entire channels dedicated to the 2X smut level.
2X. What, really?
Yeah.
Is that the origin of like triple X?
Yeah.
What is single X?
Single X is like your classy porn. Like
So
your
is that
deep
rated
throat and
X?
your
Like your movie rated X?
Well, rated X isn't a trademark. So that's why they had to do NC-17. So X-rated is just meant it's not an MPAA thing. It was just like, hey, they're not going to rate us and we have dicks.
Really?
Yeah.
Rated X meant not rate like
It's not like the RPGG thing.
it was not a category.
It may have been a category, but they didn't trademark it, so everybody could just use it however they wanted. So then,
And so
as
the smarter-
escalates,
Yep.
the race to the bottom began, and people were like, well, if we do some things that you don't do in a normal X-rated film, we can call it a double X-rated film.
And then triple was the ultimate.
That's as far as it went.
Why didn't it ever go to 4?
Because Roman numerals. Because, 3 X's, you do I and then I and V instead of X.
I never liked those systems where you have like you never know if 3 stars or 4 stars or 5 is the highest.
Oh, right.
This is
Because
a
some
4
movie critics do
this
3
is-
stars.
Or this is a 4-diamond hotel. What is that out of?
Well,
tell me what that's out of.
And then restaurants, you have Michelin, like 1 Michelin star. That's really good.
Right.
There's only a handful of restaurants to get those.
And then
So
what is it? 2?
there's a handful of, there's literally like 4 restaurants in the world that have 4 Michelin stars.
That's
literally the best restaurants in
worth
the world.
going to the country just to go to the restaurant.
Yes. Well, French Laundry's up there. I think French Laundry is 2, which is its best restaurant in the country. Anyway, we digress. If you want to come to the party, anyone, it's general admission. Anybody can come. We have a special musical guest that if you're into music, you will be excited about. The doors open at 9 for the general populace. If you are a tested premium member and you RSVP, there's a post on the site that tells you how to do that. Then you can come an hour early. Norm, Adam, and I will be there. We'll be hanging out with people, talking to everybody. We're bringing a ton of Adam's props, stuff that we made for the site. It's a much bigger venue than last year. So last year, I think the place held like 300 people, and this year it is 3 times the size. It should be a fun party. So yeah, if you're a premium member, if you're not a premium member, there's still time to sign up and come to the party. You can do that by going to tested.com/membership, and you'll get the Adam poster. That
You don't
we've been
even
talking
need to
about
be
for ages.
going to San Diego Comic-Con. You
No.
can just be in San Diego that weekend or that Friday.
In
or,
the
you know,
vicinity.
if you're in the LA area or if you're in Tijuana, you come up to the party.
There might be immigration issues for Tijuana. Don't tell them you're coming for a party. Be like, yeah, I'm going to go visit family.
But the party's down here.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's Comic-Con. We'll do all our normal stuff at Comic-Con. We have a bunch of booth tours and appointments, so we're going to see some cool stuff, and do a podcast. All the normal stuff we do at Comic-Con stuff. Not a ton of news this week, so we're going to do a bunch of reader questions since we haven't done them in ages. But there is a little bit of news.
Yeah, let's start. Let's run down
Jump
the
right
news
down it.
list.
This is quick. Apple Music is out.
Is out.
You don't have a way to listen to that.
Not yet. It will be on Android later.
Mm-hmm.
How's Apple Music, Will?
There's 2 parts. There's two things worth talking about. The music part is interesting. It's pretty good. They do an onboarding process. It's a little different than RDO and Spotify and stuff like that. I'm getting a ton of text messages here. I apologize. Spotify, I don't know. I don't remember how Spotify works, and it's been a long time since I signed up for Spotify, or RDO. But what they did was they basically said, "Hey, what are some genres? Here's a list of genres. Click once on the stuff that you kind of are okay with. Click twice on the stuff that you really, really like, and then long press on the stuff that you don't ever want to hear. So, like, if you're really into reggae but not third wave ska, you can double click reggae." Minus long wave ska, and then add country or whatever else you're into, and then it gives you a list of artists that are in those kind of genres and asks you to do the same thing for them. And you can do this for kind of as long as you want. I spent like 5 minutes on it and ended up getting like it populated my list with stuff that I actually really like. Like some of it's stuff that's in my library, some of it's stuff I'll open it up and just run down the list of artists that it gave me. It gives you a kind of curated, like mechanically curated list of music.
And
kind
you
of
didn't
like
use
RDO.
Beats before.
I used Beats, but not. It doesn't seem to have anything tied to Beats. I did Beats for the free trial month a
So
year
it's
ago.
different recommendation system from Beats, and different from Spotify, obviously.
Yes.
But I mean,
So
can you tell which one's better?
I mean, it's. I don't think it's possible to say what's better on that stuff. Like the question is, how deep is the catalog? I think is
Okay.
the more interesting way to look at it. The only thing that I've found that's not on Apple Music right now that like is in my say iTunes Match library or my cloud library or on my hard drive at home is Beatles stuff. Like Led Zeppelin's there. Most of the stuff that's on iTunes you can buy seems to be available to stream in a RDO or Spotify way, not a Pandora way, using iTunes, using Apple Radio, which is pretty good.
And this is the same app as your iTunes Match.
It is
Music?
now just become the music app.
Yeah. So if you have your Beatles songs on iTunes Match, does it all fall into the same playlist if you're subscribed to Apple Music?
So that's the thing I haven't been able to figure out. So right now, when you go to For You, there's basically a My Music tab at the bottom, and that has your library in it. I can't figure out how to have it play stuff from the service and my Beatles tracks from my iTunes Match at home. I also feel like with the depth of this catalog, if I'm paying $8 a month or $15 a month for this, whether it's the single plan or the family plan, I don't know that it's worth paying another $20. Like I feel like iTunes Match should be bundled with that. Like I shouldn't have to pay another $25 a year for iTunes Match. Right?
I canceled my iTunes Match a long time ago. That was a waste of money.
Well, it's nice for me because I use iTunes. I use it on my iPhone. It's how I listen to a lot of music, and it means that I don't ever have to fuck with like importing music onto my phone. But there's also like free servers. Like I have a server set up on my FreeNAS machine that does exactly the same thing. It's free, and all I have to do is use a different app instead of using. It's not quite as good an app.
So how is iTunes? I assume iTunes also has changed.
iTunes is still jacked up. It's still a piece of shit.
Still, and this is on Windows or Mac.
I've only downloaded on Mac so far, I think, but it's the same. Yeah, it's iTunes. Like it's got janky interface problems. It's got all this weird stuff tacked onto it that doesn't really make sense.
What?
Like the normal. You know how have you looked at iTunes since they changed it in 11?
I haven't used iTunes
Okay.
in
It's
a long time.
It's a really poorly designed UI. Like it's difficult to navigate. You can't tell. It does these weird modal shifts when you switch from stuff that's in your library and on your computer to things that are in the store. So, for example, when you go to music, the rightmost tab in the music window is the store tab.
Okay.
It's all these it's multi-tiered tabs, which is always a bad way to navigate because you always have to click like 6 times to get where you want to go. And it's slow and it's all the normal stuff. I haven't used it enough to unequivocally say it's garbage, but what I've seen so far does not make me optimistic.
That sucks.
The interesting thing, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the thing that's interesting about the new Apple Music stuff is actually the radio station.
Beats One.
Beats One.
Oh, brother. I'm not surprised that people are liking Beats One.
Here's the thing.
I'm not surprised at all.
It should be a disaster, right?
No.
But like saying, hey, we're going to make a radio station for the whole world at once, for everyone, and it's going to have all genres. It's the exact opposite of what radio has done over the last 20 years. And if you look at what Sirius does,
but the radio that radio doesn't go away.
No. Yes, that's correct.
And I think the reason it's people are liking it is because it complements that, and it's the unified experience.
They've made a supervillain DJ team, like a team of people that presumably have good music taste.
So do the DJs do they introduce the songs and
a lot of times they do, yeah. In fact, actually, I think almost all of them that I've listened to have like a.
So who are the DJs? Who is this super team?
It's like some guy from England. I don't know who fucking DJs are.
Are they time zone based? Like this.
That's what I initially
Europe
thought it would be.
Passes off to Asia, passes off to Hawaii, to US.
See, that's not it. Yeah, that is actually what happens. They have somebody in New York, they have somebody in London, they have somebody in LA. I think they maybe have somebody in Asia someplace. And basically, like, they all have a little bit of a twist. They all tell, remember in the old days, you might be too young to remember, but when I was a kid, radio DJs would have some information. Like, they'd meet the person, they'd talk about like what kind of stuff he was in, what kind of stuff the artist was into, or what the inspiration for the song was, or all. Like, it was probably nothing more than you get from like reading the music notes and the liner notes and really loving music a lot. But it was a way to share more information than what you get on like your typical.
It's like NPR's All Songs Considered.
Very lighter than that, but heavier than what you get on normal terrestrial radio.
So terrestrial radio. Typically, for example, if you listen to a new music station, they get a list from their Clear Channel, whoever owns them, who has a relationship with studios, about, you must play these 20 songs in rotation for the day, or like this song must be played X number of times. And so it really is, just the crowd pleaser, or what the studios want to promote.
It kind of reminds me of college radio, but just really polished college radio, right?
Yeah.
Because people are telling personal stories and they're sharing insight into the music, and they're like, this is a thing I like. And like, there's some lame stuff. Like, one of the guys played the same song twice in a row because he liked it so much, or he was contractually obligated to, or whatever.
Here's my question: do you think this is something that people like because it's the one singular shared experience that everyone can point to?
I think the shared experience is a key part of the whole thing, because like, if it's a thing that we don't have,
a touchstone, the digital touchstone.
We've lost that.
So
as
my
everybody goes to
question
streaming,
is, because this is called Beats 1, presumably they'll go Beats 2, and they'll offer more in the future if this is a success. Does that then dilute the communal experience?
It remains to be seen. Like, I think the thing that I was talking to Jeff Gerstmann about this on Twitter last night, because like I expected to listen to this and be like, well, this is a pile of hot garbage and something I'm never going to listen to. And then I ended up like playing Batman Arkham Knight last night and listening to the radio at the same time.
It's like
which is
playing a
super
video
weird.
game. It's like back when GTA had one or very few radio stations.
Yeah.
And everyone listened to Laszlo, and everyone knew what he was talking about.
So the thing about this that's interesting to me is that, like, I like music. Like, I kind of like all music. There's some stuff I definitely like more than others. Like, if you get down to it, I'm like, I love 90s alternative stuff, and I like kind of or mid 2000s to early 2010s alterna twee, whatever, stuff that's not real heavy on guitars, I guess is the way I would put it. And then, like, I haven't had time to pay attention to music in a while. And it's a better discovery system than, say, letting that, like, it feels more personal and better to me than letting the algorithm decide. But because I kind of because I kind of can appreciate everything, it's a little bit like, if I was the kind of person that was like, no, fuck that, I don't ever want to listen to country music, probably this isn't going to be good for you. And I think that's where the other channels come in. I think they'll probably drill down, and if there's Beats 2, Beats 3, Beats 4, Beats 5, they'll do some genre specific stuff that appeals more to like the metalheads who don't ever want to listen to a Taylor Swift song, or you know what I mean?
I think it's too soon to tell.
Almost certainly.
The novelty is strong right now.
I also don't. I mean, it's free for everybody. I don't know if they're monetizing this by, like, when they're playing a song, it's real easy to buy in iTunes. It's real easy to share with your friends on Twitter.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how they expect to monetize this, and I think that'll determine a lot of what they do with the other ones. I think calling it Beats 1 is not an accident and heavily foreshadows the coming of a Beats 2 and Beats 3 and all that. It's interesting. I haven't canceled RDO yet, but everybody who has an iTunes basically gets the 3-month free trial.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth checking out.
You start your 3 months whenever you want.
You start your 3 months when you turn it on, I think.
Okay, so you don't. It's not running.
I had to sign up. I had to hit terms and conditions and say, this is basically, you say, hey, I'm okay with recurring payments.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately went into the iTunes control panel, where you do all your recurring payment stuff, turned it off so that it won't renew automatically in 3 months.
Cool.
But it seems to be priced the same as iTunes, as RDO and Spot. It's like $8 a month or $15 a month for family, which I think is a little cheaper than the RDO family stuff. But anyway, I wish it integrated better with iTunes Match. That's the first thing I noticed. And I haven't tested the Siri stuff at all, which is the big question for me.
I subscribed to Tidal.
Really?
Only for a month.
What did you think? Did you notice the better audio quality?
No, and it's for testing speakers. And I have I have a reminder on my calendar for when to cancel my 1 month subscription at 28 days.
Do you have
Coming
to
up
call
soon.
someone, or can you just go to a website and
Just
press a
website.
button? See, as long as you can press a button, I'm okay with it. I don't mind the recurring stuff. There's a new Steve Jobs trailer out. I haven't seen it yet. Fassbender, by all reports, is unrecognizable.
No, he's very recognizable as Fassbender. A lot of people. This is more than a teaser, and it is also. I mean, if you talk about trailers, not even that exciting of a trailer. It is.
Aaron
Michael
Sorkin
Fassbender,
dialogue.
right? It's you get a little bit of Sorkin-esque dialogue. Jeff Bridges is in it. Danny Boyle's directing, of course. And if you've been following the movie, this is the Steve Jobs biopic, which segments into 3 parts of his life between the times leading up to 3 major product announcements, not including the iPhone, I believe, or is the iPhone one of them? I forget exactly what the 3 segments are. But the trailer, a lot of Kate Winslet, she looks really good in this. Seth Rogen sounds just like Seth Rogen, which I think is a terrible casting choice because he plays Woz. But I think that, as when we talked about Jeremy, what they're going for this isn't the exact, they're not trying to completely portray Steve Jobs exactly the way he acted, but it's more about it's more like a theater presentation.
It's literally like The Social Network. The Social Network is not a documentary. It's not even a recreation of the way things happened. It's a dramatic interpretation based on loosely, presumably, on some real life events.
Dramatization based on some stuff that may be true. Hopefully, that stuff is vetted, but it's not like the definitive Steve Jobs story.
Right. This is the one based on the Isaacson book, though.
I think so.
Yeah. You saw the SpaceX launch exploded. The Falcon 9 blew up at the end of the first stage burn, presumably due to some problem with the second stage. I don't think there's any more details about what actually happened. They're probably still trying to figure it out, if I had to guess.
What did they lose in the Falcon 9?
It was
explosion?
it was the third, I think, ISS resupply mission that was lost in the last 12 months. So fuel for the space station.
Okay.
Tons of cargo for the space station, including a pair of custom space-enabled HoloLenses.
HoloLenses.
Sorry, Microsoft.
It was very sad that NASA tweeted that astronauts were getting HoloLenses that day.
Psych. More importantly, losing 3 resupply missions, because there was an orbital sciences launch that had problems earlier this year, or late last year. There was a Russian Progress mission that was lost once it reached orbit, basically, and then burnt up over the Pacific. And then it means that dudes on the space station haven't had fresh produce in a long time.
They have food till October.
They have food through October,
And
which is
only,
not that
only
that's
3
way,
people, right?
but that's way closer than they usually like to cut
Yes,
it.
yes.
I know when we talked to Vicky and Commander Hadfield and Vicky at the food lab, she said they usually have between 4 and 6 months worth of food. 4 is the lowest they ever like to go. And it seems like it'll definitely be below 4 months by the time they get a resupply mission up. And if they lose another one, 4 in a row,
They send people back.
some people come home,
Yep.
which would be bad.
3 more people are going up, I believe, in July.
Yeah, but one of the people that's there right now is Scott. What's his last name?
The twin.
Scott Kelly. He's there for a year. He's in the middle of a year-long mission. So, if they have to bring people back, it would be a big loss, basically, because he's doing the work that they're doing with this is at least theoretically going to determine a little bit about how long-term spaceflight works in terms of Mars missions and stuff like that.
And Russia also has supply missions that go up. They have, I believe, one going up next week.
Soon, yeah.
Or this week.
The Progress mission.
Tomorrow.
Really? Is there a Progress mission tomorrow?
There is a Russian supply mission going up on July 3rd.
Well, that's good then. Everything works out.
Just don't rupture the fuel tanks.
There's some iPhone 6s leaks. Mainly, it seems like the body style is the same as kind of you'd expect.
Yeah, as you expect, this is the S upgrade.
It's the Talk or the Tick?
This is the Tick. Talk is the big one.
Okay.
Just like in the Intel side. So
You start with it. Anyway, okay. We've done this before.
Tick, talk, tick, talk.
Okay.
I don't think it matters what you
You
start
start with the big one.
I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think it matters which one you start with. Anyway, assuming Apple does what they've done for the past 2 generations with the 4 and the 5. The 6S will look exactly like the 6 external design, but the leak, which is I think the actual casing of the 6S from a manufacturer which gone out, says that it indicates that there will be some manufacturing differences of how the chassis goes together.
Mm-hmm.
The big rumors are now that it will use a new Qualcomm LTE chip to potentially double download speeds. So the 6S may support, as reported by 9to5Mac, download speeds of up to 300 megabits per second, double that of the iPhone 6. And people are wondering what the camera system is going to be like. Camera's a big selling point for the Apple iPhone. And there was speculation that PrimeSense, I believe, was a company that Apple bought for $350 million, camera company.
Are these the dual camera people?
The dual camera people, that technology might make it in the 6S, although that could also be coming in whatever next year's phone is. I don't know how that dual camera technology would work. A lot of it sounds like it would be some type of like a depth camera combined with a traditional lens, and then you get to do adjust focus in software.
So it's like to tweak your bokeh.
Yes, which I never think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
To do that, Apple maybe, if their software maybe it can look good.
It's not like a light field sensor or something like that,
No,
though, right?
No. I don't think you could put a light field sensor in a smartphone that
Something
size.
flat.
But you're simulating that effect where
Okay.
you take an image and then you could, run a slider and adjust the depth of field on the fly. I mean, the Dell cameras and Intel's Atom chips support this with 2 camera systems or two sensor camera systems, but they've never been done well.
Mm. The other thing I thought was interesting is that the other rumor was that there will be a next gen LTE sensor that'll double bandwidth
That's what I
for the
just
phone.
said.
Oh, sorry, I was reading about the next thing. This is the problem with only having 2 people on the podcast. Normally Jeremy's here to fill in the buffers while we're trading off. Did you see Chicago added tax for cloud services?
No, how does that work?
Local tax. So they're hitting both entertainment and like data services. So stuff like Netflix and Hulu on the entertainment side, and then things like LexisNexis and Amazon Web Services on the data service side. And basically they're looking at like the story I read said that cities are losing a lot of like local sales tax and stuff like that to things like Amazon and online services like Netflix. So instead of going to movie theaters or Blockbuster, where Chicago would collect sales tax, they're buying movies from Amazon or renting them from Apple or stuff like that, or just paying for Netflix or Hulu or one of those online services.
I'm not exactly sure how tax law works, but you pay tax on, for example, on regulatory fees on internet services.
So yes, but you pay normal sales tax on that. It's relatively low, and it's one it's one transaction over the the month that your whole month of service.
And then so Netflix or Amazon Prime, they get away with not charging tax because
typically you pay sales tax if you have a business in the state where the sale, like we pay. For a long time, you didn't have to pay sales tax when you bought Amazon stuff in California because Amazon intentionally didn't have any locations inside California.
Interstate commerce, they can't.
Right. So California couldn't make Amazon pay sales tax because they were outside. There was a big lawsuit, ended up going the way of the state of California, which is probably a good thing. Mm-hmm. So cities typically make most of their money from either property taxes or sales taxes. So, for example, San Francisco has like a 1.5% or 2% sales tax that lives on top of the state sales tax. So when you buy something in San Francisco versus, say, South San Francisco or Daly City, you pay 2% more basically than you would if you bought it outside the city limits. That's why people go to Serramonte instead of Stonestown, right? When you're someplace on a state border, for example, I grew up in Northeast Tennessee, right on the Tennessee-Virginia border. Tennessee has a really high 9% sales tax for that area. Virginia has no state sales tax, so people would go across the state line buy all of their retail stuff, all of the malls and retail locations and all that were there, and then truck it back. If you got caught doing that, which didn't happen very often, but occasionally the local cops or state cops would pull people over and ask for receipts, you had to like be on an errand that took you to that side of town. Otherwise, you had to pay the sales tax on your state tax return at the end of the year. So basically what Chicago is saying is, look, we're taking a big hit on our sales tax because everybody's doing all their stuff online, and we're not going to collect sales tax from Amazon or whatever, but we want to collect tax on these services. So Netflix and the larger services are already building it in. And basically, if you live inside Chicago, if your Netflix account is registered to an address inside Chicago, you're going to get an additional couple of % on your bill. So instead of it being $7.99 a month, it'll be $8.09 a month or something like that.
I think it's not unreasonable to have to pay tax on those services.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our infrastructure crumbles. In California especially, our infrastructure is constantly crumbling, so paying taxes on services doesn't really offend me. You and I went to DARPA a couple weeks ago. We talked about it a little bit with Adam on Still Untitled a couple of weeks ago. I don't think we talked about it here that much.
No, the videos are the reason we're talking about it. The videos are finally online, and while the actual robotics challenge stuff, which have been plentiful and people report a lot on, we actually saw a lot of cool stuff outside of the robotics challenge finals. There was a whole expo area at the DARPA Robotics Challenge where robotics companies, researchers, toy companies, universities set up booths and kind of showed off their technologies. And we talked about some of that cool stuff. One of it was Johns Hopkins University's, their APL, the Applied Physics Lab, had on display their modular prosthetic limb, which is a robot hand.
Oh, this was amazing. And so we've all seen robotic hands starting with like mechanical claws and going up to things that kind of look like hands but don't really behave like hands. This is it is a limb that is designed to replicate virtually all the movement that you can do with a real hand. The only thing it couldn't do is that thing, if you hold your palm flat and face it up, and then you fold your thumb over to touch your pinky, like touch the first knuckle on your pinky, not the one closest to your hand. It can't do that kind of squinching palm movement.
That's right.
But everything else, like it can spread fingers apart, it can close them back in, it can move joints individually, it can move its thumb independently. It's about the same size as a normal hand, a little bit smaller than my hand even. It's amazing, literally unbelievable. You've probably seen videos of it. There was a New York Times story and some video. They're actually doing like deep probe electrodes to connect directly to brain tissue.
Both invasive and non-invasive procedures to get control of the hand, and with feedback as well.
Yes.
Connecting nerves to it.
The thing I didn't realize about the invasive procedures where they actually put electrodes inside your brain is that they're basically giving people who've lost one or both limbs the ability to use their hands again. But because we don't have the technology to put the electrodes in the brain in a way that the brain doesn't reject them and kind of gum them up with immune system stuff, like they can only do it for like 3 months.
That's it. The trials, if you the amputees who enter these trials, to improve the research, may get sense and hand movement, but once that scabs up in their brain, that's it.
Yeah, and probably they can't do it again.
They can't do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. That video is definitely worth watching. We have the Nubotics. I talked to the Nubotics folks.
What are Nubotics?
They're inflatable robots.
Soft robotics.
So this is one of those things. It's like the first time I heard about inflatable space habitats, right? I thought, oh, seems like a dumb idea. What if something hits it? But in reality, if something hits an inflatable space habitat, the same thing happens to a rigid space habitat. It goes right through it, makes a big hole, and then you have to patch it up. This is the kind of the same way, right? So these are robots that they build a rigid, a soft form around, and they constrain them in such a way so that when one chamber inflates, they straighten, and when the other chamber inflates, they pull back. And they use a series of solenoids and pistons, and there's a bunch of different methods that they use to make the robots actually move. But the upshot is you can build these unbelievably strong robots because pneumatics can contain a ton of force that are flexible enough that if you like whack someone in the face with them, they're not going to have their head knocked off or probably even be injured at all. And if you contrast that with like industrial robots, so if you go to a car factory, anywhere that they have those big industrial robots moving, those are basically places that people can't go when they're on. So there's big walls around them. If something goes into that area, the whole line will shut down, or that part of the line will shut down, because those robots have no idea what's around, and they'll kill people. So I thought that was absolutely fascinating.
I mean, the trade-offs are very logical. It's about precision and strength, and a lot of that has material science. You're putting strain on the entire skin of a balloon, basically, as you're pumping air through it or fluids.
Well, there's bladders inside the balloon, and some of them even had like accordion collapsible, like they made essentially 2-liter bottle type tubes that would accordion and collapse, and they could suck air by pushing air in or pulling air out. That would cause the movement. Like I said, they had a bunch of different ways that they're doing the movement.
Yeah, and they are actually at Maker Faire, at a bunch of other fairs. It started by the people who did Other Lab, and they make the Other Mill, the Other Milling Company. So it's all the same people, really cool inventors.
It's an incubator
in San Francisco. So if you go to a Maker Faire and you see these inflatable like Rock'em Sock'em robots, feel free to approach them and try it out.
They're very friendly and not at all scary. So then the last thing we saw a bunch of other stuff. We saw some robots that can walk and jog on about 400 watts of power, which is less than your desktop PC probably draws under load.
Yep.
As opposed to, say, the robots that were in the DARPA competition that are drawing anywhere from 1,600 to 2,500 watts at any given time.
Is that because they're continuously walking?
I think it's because it had to do more with the robots. Basically, the robots that you see in the DARPA competition, including stuff like Atlas and the robots that were built in Japan and Korea, have that kind of, I think of as like the Asimo gait, right? So their knees are bent and they're kind of shuffling like a really old person with hip problems. These robots, like whereas you or I, when you walk and you're younger and you're walking on the balls of your feet, you're using the spring and the arch of your foot arch and your knees and your Achilles heel tendon as shock absorbers, and they absorb impact and then transfer it right back into the next step as you impact and push off. So they were making so the reason they do the bent knee thing, we learned, is that that's a more stable gait. It's more forgiving. So if they make a mistake, if they stumble, they won't fall. They won't, they're less likely to take a dive. With the more unstable you make the gait, the more efficient it is. But the faster you have to react to things like a piece of gravel on the surface or slightly uneven surfaces. And there are teams of people that are now working on that stuff. And there's a whole separate challenge around distance, weight, and battery life. Like distance you can walk on a certain weight class of robot. And we talked to some folks who were doing that. I think that video is coming up. I don't know if it's up yet.
In a day or two.
Yeah. Maybe Friday. And then Telefactor.
Yeah, and then another really cool thing, a company that makes telepresence
Should I play
cameras.
the VR Minute song for this?
And, no, it's very loosely VR. No VR Minute this week.
Okay.
It's basically an HMD attached camera, gimbaled camera system. So you think of like a RoboCam or security camera that's on like a 2-axis or 3-axis gimbal. And then because they developed the end-to-end software for to motorize the gimbal, to process the video, and also to head track, it's very, very low latency, not zero latency. I'd still say I don't know if you could drive a car with this, but it's made for driving cars. Essentially, it's made for people to drive, tanks and trucks remotely using head tracking.
Maybe not to drive a car in like the traditional sense of, like in the MythBusters sense, where you get in a car and drive 70 miles an hour and jump off a ramp.
They have a demo of that,
right? But maybe more like, definitely more like the way that we drive Curiosity across Mars, where you look at where you are, you plan your next move, you send the command to move there, and then when you get there, you look around and see where you are, see where you actually ended up, and then go from there. It was neat. What was the latency like on that? That was the one thing we didn't talk. We didn't do a post about that.
Not 20 milliseconds.
It wasn't
not sub 20 milliseconds. Based on video games, based on my experience playing video games, and if I thought of my head as a mouse, I would say it was about 100 milliseconds.
Okay. Like, so not not so low latency that you'd want to do that for 5 hours or any appreciable length of time. But better than, say, the existing Telefactor experiences we've had. And definitely a step in the right direction. They're using the fastest servos and stuff I've ever seen. Like, that thing was crazy
very,
fast.
very responsive.
Yeah. And then BattleBots. BattleBots is on. We can talk about BattleBots now.
We can finally talk about BattleBots.
Yeah.
Did you watch episode 2?
I did. I was shocked that they showed the net. We're gonna have BattleBot spoilers right now.
Yeah, also disclaimer: the company that we work for
Right.
produced BattleBots, but we're enjoying it, and we were there to cover it, shoot some behind the scenes, and have videos about that. But we're just watching it. We don't know how it's been edited and how it's been, how we weren't involved in the actual production side of it at all. We're just spectators. But it was really cool. It's neat to see. We saw full matches, and they cut down some of the matches, and I think it's been produced pretty well. This last episode, I believe, had 8 fights, 5 long ones, and 3 just quick ones montaged.
I mean, some of the fights, I know people were upset that they cut some of the fights. A couple of them were literally like 10-second fights, where somebody would get pushed up on the wall, and then it's just all over.
Yep.
The thing that I think it's hard to capture on TV, even like with the big, like I have big sound in my living room, watching a big TV and the whole thing. It's hard to capture how exciting and terrifying it is when 500 pounds of metal slams into each other with the amount of force that some of these robots are getting. Like when Tombstone hits another robot with that spinning blade, it is literally terrifying.
Yeah. You can capture that, in audio, but if you don't have the speaker system, you're not going to feel
even with the speaker system and everything cranked up. It's not like sitting there in the audience. You get the full adrenaline hit. I've never been to a big prize fight or an MMA match or something like that, but I assume that it's the same kind of thing where you get in a crowd, people are really cranked up about the fight. It's what I imagine that felt like.
There's a lot of unpredictability.
Yeah, and everybody's screaming at there's a little bit of an element of danger because there is this incredible amount of force going on. We have a video where we show how they built we talked to the designer who made the arena, and it's safe, of course. They had 1.25 Lexan between the people outside and the robots inside. They had all this ventilation stuff to get the smoke out after fires. But it was still you're not often in the proximity of that much destructive force in day-to-day life, even for us.
Yep.
So I guess that's it for news this week. It's kind of a slow news week. We're going to play some music, talk about what we've been testing, and then we have a bunch of questions from the audience.
That Nintendo leak is not true.
The NX thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we know. So Norm, I wore the Pebble Time for about 2 days. Then I went camping and gave it to you. What are your thoughts?
I've been wearing it, I think, for about 2 weeks now. I think it's completely unnecessary and a step back from Pebble.
That was my feeling. I didn't take it to E3 because I was not confident in it. Was less useful to me than the Apple Watch, which is really kind of the most mean thing I think I could say. On the iOS, the notifications were unreliable.
Okay, but I've not have any notification problem with this. Notifications every notification that I've wanted to go through has gone through.
And you can pick on a per app basis on Android,
and you can install side Pebble syncing things that will help you do that for a per app basis. My problem with this is compared to, I think if this thing existed in a vacuum, it'd be okay. But because the Pebble 1 exists and the Pebble Steel exists, I think the Pebble Time is unnecessary. The color screen really adds not much.
Well, and it actually takes away because you can't see it in inside light anywhere near as well as you could see the original Pebble screen.
The screen looks more recessed below the plastic. This plastic, or I assume it's plastic because it's
plastic.
It's not. It's scuffing in a way that glass doesn't, and blurring. And
you need to have the light on it the right way to see the screen.
The timeline is making it to the original Pebble, I believe. So I don't have an original Pebble, so I don't know the performance differences. But the native apps in the store are not that useful. You can put whatever watch face you want on here. But I found
cars.
2 watch faces that I've been using, and one I've used. The one I've gone back to is actually just a black and white one.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan. Not the biggest fan. I mean, the great thing is that, like the original Pebble, it has a week of battery life, meaning 4.5 days. And I think E-Ink makes a really good smartwatch. I just think that the use of their e-paper or whatever it is on the Pebble Time is poor.
Are you using the microphone at all?
I'm not using the microphone.
Okay.
Doesn't tap into Google now, although
was
they
my
say
question.
that is something that may happen in the future. They've said it will come. And if it does tap, I mean, you don't get Google Now notifications.
You don't get Google Now notifications?
You don't get you can't scroll through Google Now.
Okay. You
Which
get the
is-
notifications pop up like they always do?
Google Now doesn't actually send you that many notifications. The only real notifications Google Now sends you is traffic.
I get notifications for like baseball games and stuff too. I think
That's just in the feed.
No. I get a notification when there's a Giants game. It says there's a Giants game today at 4:00. It may
I
be
don't
because
get
I've
that.
searched about Giants more often than you have.
No, I get Giants in my well, maybe that could be a personal setting thing.
Yeah.
But you can't interact with Google Now the way you can in Android Wear, and that was the best part. Always the best part of Android Wear.
I didn't like the band either. For what's worth, on the it's not particularly comfortable. I thought it was sweaty.
That didn't bother me that much. I mean, it's an easy band to swap out.
Yeah.
I think the design is also kind of fugly.
The flat plastic bezel.
Yes, the
Yeah.
rounded corners.
Yeah.
The recessed rounded corners.
I did like having the physical buttons. I thought
Physical
those were
buttons.
nice.
I mean, everything that Pebble 1 did right, it still does right, except the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really like, my initial reaction when they said they were doing a color screen was no, and it turns out I was right. It's kind of where I am. We'll do a full video about it later. I think our steels are about to ship probably, so
Yeah,
do
that
it.
should-
Might as well wait for those at this point. We'll see. Have you been playing Batman?
No.
Have you tried playing Batman?
Yes.
Did it perform poorly for you?
It performed poorly. It performed poorly for me, and I ran the benchmark, and I was just not. I don't want to play it until they fix the problem.
60 frames a second.
Yes.
See, I've been playing it at 30, and it's still a fun game. But I'm playing on on a
happens when you
really
get into a
beefy
Batmobile?
PC. It's no problem. Doesn't seem to be a problem. I went into the GeForce experience and matched the optimal settings button.
And what
then,
resolution are you playing it at?
3660 by 1440, something
Wow.
wide.
Then
But
you are
not-
having a unique experience.
I am the only person that's having a good experience with that game, I think.
on the PC.
Every once in a while, you'll get like a little bit of chug, but it's not anywhere near 14 frames a second.
So there was a report. Our friend Patrick Klepek over at Kotaku dug up from some sources that said that QA testers that said Warner Brothers knew about these problems, and in the QA testing, 100-person QA team, 10% was devoted to PC, and they were testing at 720. Their bugs,
Which explains why they didn't have any problems.
performance-wise,
Yeah.
and they still. I think they said the performance was still a big problem in their testing. That sucks. It really sucks, especially since Warner Brothers. Last year Shadow Mortar was great. I know Mortal Kombat was not good at launch on PC, and it's not a good trend.
Yeah. Well, Warner. It's funny. Warner's been up and down because Shadows of Mordor launched okay. I thought.
Launched great.
Yeah, it
Shadow
worked
Mortar
fine.
was fantastic.
But it was Monolith. It seems like it's a per studio basis, and they farmed this one out to
farmed the
somebody else.
PC port.
The PC port of this game out. It's unfortunate because I know, I can't remember where I saw it. It was probably on, what's the site that does the visual comparisons between consoles? Anyway, they did a screenshot comparison of the PS4 version, the PC version. The PC version looked a lot worse.
Wow.
They just turned on like rain effects and stuff a day or two ago in patches. It's still a lovely game, but I'm bummed that the launch was bad.
You can always return it if you bought it on Steam. I encourage you to return it.
They're encouraging people to return it.
Return it until they fix everything.
Yeah, don't give them a $60 loan for 9 months,
Yeah,
6 months. They're saying they'll have a fixed version out in December in the fall.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have done a day-and-date launch for PC.
Well, if they didn't do a day and date launch, people would have bitched. If they did a bad day and date launch, people bitched. I think you have no choice. I think you're boned either way. I think they thought it wasn't going to be as bad as it was. I'm sure.
No, I mean the report says they knew.
I think the decision makers at Warner, the people on the ground who actually play games, knew that it was going to be bad.
I think the decision maker thought that it was going to be acceptable.
Right.
acceptable meaning, like the backlash was
is-
going to be acceptable,
it's-
and not realize that zero tolerance for fuck ups.
It's the Fight
on the
Club
internet.
formula, right? It's
What's the Fight Club formula?
You know, the thing that Tyler Durden tells Ed Norton about, and we talked about this last week, but you weren't here. Basically, the way they figure out whether they're going to do a car recall is they look at the cost of the lawsuit versus the cost of doing the recall, and if one's bigger than the other, they choose to go or no go
And
based
there's no
on that.
lawsuit here; it's just returns.
Right.
Well,
Well,
but bad PR, you can't monetize. You can't quantify that.
the good news for us and people who buy games is that Steam launched the refunds 2 weeks before,
Yep.
and there's an easy way in place to get your money back. So it wasn't a hassle.
And I would say good news for WB.
Yeah,
Because if there was no refunds,
they would have been sued.
yes, it would have been even worse. It
Have
would have been SimCity's levels of bad.
you played Her Story?
Yes, her story. I'm not gonna.
Don't say anything.
I'm not gonna say too much about like I can't say anything about the plot. But her story is fantastic.
It's something completely new.
Art game.
Yeah.
And it is a FMV game where your interaction with the game is only through a search panel on an old CRT monitor. You're just watching short clips to solve a mystery.
Did you play it with other people, or did you play it by yourself?
Just by myself.
Okay.
Highly encourage you to try it out. And the thing you should know going in, because you quickly figure out like the format of the game and whether that's something you're going to be interested in. But if it is something you're interested in, there is no like win screen.
Well, there's
you just watch all the videos.
your understanding of what happened is the win, right?
yes, but
You
the-
either get
the game
clarity
doesn't-
or
the
you
game
don't.
doesn't know.
No.
So you just play until you've watched all the videos.
It's ambiguous in a way that I appreciated quite a bit. You also have been testing out the new Nest Cam, which looks to me a lot like the old Nest Cam with a new stand.
You mean the
Nest Cam, the old
drop cam?
drop cam. Thanks.
It looks a lot like drop cam, except it's black, and I believe has a better camera sensor now. And Google,
I think it's
which
better low light,
better
right?
low light as well.
Yeah.
Google, which now owns Nest, and they also bought Dropcam, has got to incorporate all those services. It's a really good service. I've pointed only toward inside the house for now, and the next phase is to point it outside the house.
Like at your front door or something.
No, it's over like at the street.
You're gonna spy on your neighbors.
No, it's by the street. Just in case I want to see, like I want to catch the recycling gnomes
Okay.
that take all the cans.
Yeah.
I want to. You never know what happens, in front of your street. I don't live in a particularly super interesting place. I may not see, whatever BX Chen, Ryan Chen saw in the
When they tried to jack
New
his
York
car?
Times. Was it someone? It was a hit and run. I think he caught.
Somebody caught somebody stealing their car. Was that Bilton? Might have been Nick Bilton. Like they were using an amplifier to get the key fob from inside the house to trigger.
Wow.
Yeah. By the way, if you have a keyless entry on your car, you should put it in a Faraday bag.
box.
Well, bag box, same difference. Just
How-
don't.
how does
leave it
that
out.
work?
Somebody takes an antenna, puts it in a signal amplifier right by the car door. So and then they aim it at houses around the street until the car beeps and you can press the button. So basically, your car key works on proximity. When you're standing next to the car, it says, "Oh, okay, I know how strong the signal should be. You're probably less than 3 feet away, and you're touching the car. Hit the button."
So it's the car that sends a signal.
The car sends a signal to the key fob. The key fob responds, and once it gets that signal, it unlocks the car.
But how does the
and
car
starts it?
So how does the car detect the signal if it's only an amplifier for the transmission for the?
Because the car's always sending out the signals, right?
Right. But I'm saying how does the car if your key is
Amplifiers go both ways. You can do an amplifier that goes both ways. It's basically like a antenna. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So all you need to do is get a foil line bag for your key fob and just drop them in there.
I'm not paying for the service.
You're not paying
also.
for. I was going to say,
No.
are you paying for the
I'm
service?
not paying for the service. I'm just doing you get to watch from that day. You get alerts about when movement happens, which
Okay.
if you're, and then you can set schedules, of course.
Where do you have where's the camera set up right now?
Facing my living room and kitchen. Facing
Did
basically
you
the
have to
entire house.
tell all your roommates?
No.
You didn't let them know you're surveilling them? Seems like that's
They
something you
should
have
be
to do.
They can see it.
Okay.
It's in a very clearly marked place.
Is the puck still the same size as the old one so that old accessories will work?
I don't know about that.
Because there's something we need to find out before we do the
Yep.
video.
I don't have any of the
There's a
drop can accessories.
fairly large ecosystem of like weatherproof boxes and stuff like that for those cameras. And they all slot in with that puck shape.
Do we still have the old drop cam
We
here?
have the old drop cam.
Yeah, if it's the same one, I can look at it and tell you.
I can give you the old stand if you want.
Yeah, the stand's pretty nice too. It's really sturdy. You mount the stand, it'll just drop it in.
The old one was kind of wobbly, so it's a good.
It's a firm. It's a really firm stand.
Does it stick on?
It magnets on.
Okay.
And then you can screw the stand in to a wall.
Yeah.
Or prop it up.
Okay. I think that's it for what we've been testing this week. Yeah, it seems like everything. I did a lot of spray painting yesterday. I went to Lowe's or Home Depot, and I'd never bought spray cans with triggers. I've always used the ones you push down the top.
Triggers are the best.
Triggers are so good.
Yeah.
My hands weren't all covered in paint. I didn't look like I was some sort of juvenile delinquent.
Yep.
And I only got, it was very easy to control, and you could hold them upside down. I've never had those before. It was very exciting.
It's fantastic.
Let's play some music and then answer some questions for the next 20 or 30 minutes.
Emails?
Well, but we do the other one.
Email.
'Cause it's, we don't do emails. We do
Emails?
No.
Questions?
Boom.
If you have a question for This Is Only Test, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Please keep your questions brief and on topic. Our first question comes from Lightning01123558. He says, "Hey guys, I recently graduated from UCSB with a BS in physics and will be moving to Palo Alto in the fall to start my doctoral program at Stanford. Sorry, Norm, I know you went to Berkeley for applied physics. I was wondering if you guys could talk about some of the awesome places in the greater SF area that have been mentioned over the years, and also ones that are awesome and you haven't mentioned yet." And he mentioned Spitten and some other places we've done videos at. Anything you're down on the hotness when it comes to food and cool things to do in the Bay Area right now, Norm? I don't leave the house anymore. It turns out.
Plenty of museums. I mean, it's too loaded a question.
What are 3 things that you would? We have a long weekend coming up. Give me 3 things you want to do. Get your last taste of San Francisco before you go down to San Diego for Comic-Con.
That I haven't done.
That you haven't done
If
lately.
Go to Twin Peaks. Go to the Academy of Sciences. Go to Exploratorium.
Academy of Sciences is always good. Make sure you do the Biosphere Dome. I'd never done that until we took my daughter a few weeks ago. That thing is amazing. It's full of butterflies and fish and all sorts of neat stuff.
Bats.
There's bats in there?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Food? Burrito? Where's your burrito of choice these days? La Taqueria?
Well, there's the one that Adam really likes. That's a really fantastic one.
What's it called?
I don't want to say.
We've said it before.
I like Porto Alegre on Valencia.
It's on Valencia. That place is
I
good.
like that place. It's not a walk-in. It's a sit-down place.
You can get a wet burrito there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question is from John. He says, "Hey guys, I have a couple of Plex-related questions. I'm ripping my Looney Tunes DVDs and Blu-rays into Plex in preparation for the birth of my first kid in August. I'm saving each short as an individual file, so Plex is reading them as individual films, which is cluttering up the menus. Is there a good way to make it not do that?" I have the same problem. I've ripped a lot of Looney Tunes DVDs and like just general short DVDs. You have to put those in movies, because if you put them in take a step back. The way Plex works is it sorts stuff and it applies data to the files you've created based on the content type. So you should have a TV folder, a movies folder, and then if you want music and photos and all that other stuff, you can put that in there too. If you put the Looney Tunes DVDs in the TV folder, they won't pick up the metadata or it will be bad. The way Plex picks up metadata is based on the file name. That's all it looks at. So typically you like build a structure that's like Plex/movies/Looney Tunes, and then it'll be the name of the short, hair raising hair, parentheses 1947, and that'll give it what it needs. You have to put it in movies. Otherwise, there's no other way to do it.
That's just how it's indexed in their database.
And it'll clutter up the recently added. The thing I found is as I filled out my collection more, I didn't care as much. The frustrating thing is that the metadata, when it's bad, changing it, sometimes it loses those changes. So basically, anytime you hit refresh data, it's going to wipe out any changes that you haven't locked in the little menu. So when you open up the Plex menu, there's a lock next to each field. if you change it and want that to stay that way forever, click the lock button and it won't overwrite your changes anymore. You can also make like a Looney Tunes playlist if you want to have them all in one place to get to them easily. I have a movies my kid likes playlist. The thing that's annoying about playlists is some clients support playlists and some don't. So I think the Xbox One doesn't, but Roku does. iTunes, the iOS clients obviously do. So you have to go from there. Then if you have stuff that doesn't match the naming convention, so this John also asks about DC animation DVDs. So, go to the actual source for the data. So for TV stuff, I think it's FreeDB or TVDB. For movie stuff, it's FreeDB. Basically, in your Plex settings, you can look and see which data sources you're using, and go there, find out what it calls those things, and then name them specifically that. Don't name them what the DVD calls them, because oftentimes that's not what the database thinks that they are. And you can use alt names and stuff like that to help make that stuff the way the database needs it versus what you want it to actually be called. And then that's pretty much it. He also asks about commentaries. So some people, in the old days, you might have ripped your commentaries as separate files. So you'll have like a video file and then an audio file with the same name that has commentary appended to it. It's much better now to just rip an MKV and leave the commentaries in the MKV, because then Plex knows what to do with them, and you don't have to fool with naming convention there.
Yep.
And if you've already done that, you can use like make MKV or MKV, MP4 to MKV, or one of those MKV tool packages to remux them in and make an MKV out of an MP4 and a couple of audio tracks.
How many audio tracks can you throw in an MKV?
Tons. Like I have some stuff. I have some like Criterion collections that have 12 audio tracks.
Wow.
I've been ripping all of the audio tracks uncompressed, which may have been a mistake, because I have like 6 gig movies that then have another 5 gigs of audio track on them. But they sound nice, and hard drive space is cheap, so I kind of don't care.
Well, can you differentiate between when you're ripping, for example, you want 5.1, the best bit rate for this audio track, but for the commentary, the lower bit rate? Can you differentiate that? Or
you can, but I find it's like the commentaries are usually like Dolby Digital 2.0 anyway, so they're so small that it doesn't matter. Like a Dolby Digital 2.0
but won't
track is already compressed.
But it won't try to create a high bitrate standard for everything.
No. You can set the ripper to do whatever. Usually I just pass through, so it just puts whatever was already there into the MKV. Okay. If you want to make them smaller, you can make them AACs, multi-channel AACs. I find support for multi-channel AAC is a little sketchy, and it's easier just to leave them what they are, because most players will know what to do with that. Oops. I just got rid of the next question. Let's go back here. Ethan wants to know about unified streaming queues. My wife and I are cord light, which means we get basic cable and HBO Go from our cable provider, and then we have Netflix, Amazon Prime. Most of what we watch is either on one of the streaming sources or on Plex, but some exclusive content, like stuff on HBO, stuff on Netflix, stuff on Amazon, occasionally gets lost, because it's out of sight, it's out of the place that we normally go, we lose it, and it's out. Once it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Do you guys know of anything that will give you a single queue for all of your subscribed shows on Roku or Xbox? I don't know any. I've never heard of that. I would love that, actually.
Queue management is a problem.
It's always, we always are like, oh, right, we have an entire season of Orange is the New Black we haven't watched because we haven't been to Netflix lately. Somebody should build that. Like, you should build a player that just plays Netflix and Hulu and all the other stuff. Derek wants to know about cameras. Hey guys, I have a Pentax K1000 that I absolutely love and have had for a long time. I have 4 or 5 lenses for it that I don't necessarily want to get rid of, but film processing is getting hard to find and it's really expensive. I'd love to have a DSLR. I don't shoot professionally, but I'd like having a full-size camera. I know Pentax DSLRs will use my old glass, but is it worth trying to buy a Pentax DSLR body, or should I just leave that in the past and buy a decent kit like a T5i and start over with new lenses or an adapter?
New lenses and an adapter.
Yes. You can get a dumb adapter for $15 or $20 in a lot of cases, and if you want a fancy adapter, you can pay $300 or $400 for Metabones, which is probably
more than that. But yes.
It depends. There's 2 kinds of Metabones. There's the ones that pass the information, pass electric like data, which are way more expensive, and then there's just dumb ones that are like $250 or $300. I mean, that's what my Nikon one was. because there's no electronics in it. It's
But it
just
has the
glass.
lens. Has the
Yeah,
lens.
it has the lens.
That's an important part.
Yeah. Lundygrass wants to know about unfinished projects. I'm on the site daily and love your content, but I feel like the story hasn't been completed on a few of the projects, like the Norm's arcade cabinet, Will's desk, the keyboard typing race, and the completed Mini Cooper Lego build. What's up with those things, guys? Thanks, Tim. So my desk, we didn't have enough shoot days to finish it. It's sitting mostly complete in my garage. Basically, it needs to have the table legs powder coated, and about 2 hours worth of work on the top, and then it'll be done. At some point, we should probably take an afternoon and just do that, or maybe a couple of days. The keyboard typing race, I'm pretty good at using the ErgoDox now. I can actually touch type on it at almost as fast as I can type on a normal keyboard, and I'm improving. Like I've gotten over the hard part, and now I'm improving on a day-to-day basis. I still make more mistakes than I do on a normal keyboard. I don't know that I'm going to stick with it. I don't know that I type enough anymore for it to be worth the pain and suffering of using a columnar keyboard layout. Like I wish the bottom and top rows were staggered.
I love my existing Razer mechanical keyboard.
Yeah. Is it straight?
It's straight.
Yeah.
Not ergonomic. It's fine. Deal with it. Wear pads like Ehrlich.
The wrist grabbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Mini Cooper is Veronica's. We're giving that to Veronica. It's done. We fixed it. We finished it.
You finished it.
We finished it.
It's gonna be gifted to Veronica.
Yes. It's lovely. It is those car builds, like the car, the VW bus, and the Lego Sop with Camel that Gary I helped Gary build that one day. Those are amazing kits.
That's not the car though.
It's in the same. To me, it's in the same kind of space because it's like a big scale model of a thing that exists in the real world with some real attention to detail and some neat mechanical stuff going on.
More of those would be cool.
More of those would be awesome. I saw. Did you see that Creator Ferris wheel?
Yes, I don't want that. That's.
I want to build it, but I don't want to have it.
Yeah, I don't want to have that. It's too close to playset for me.
Oh, you don't want doll houses?
I'm not the biggest fan of doll houses. Plenty of dolls.
I'm
okay.
You do have a lot of dolls. This is a question from Cody about VR. Valve's VR demos spurred a lot of discussion about how game developers will solve the problem of moving larger distances while the player is confined to a small space, like their living room. It seems to me that there's far too much variation in people's homes to create a game that requires the player to physically move around. Do you think that this is actually something that developers will set out to solve, or will most games be sit-down stationary experiences where the player is using a more traditional input like an analog stick to move in the game? Also, do you think the most comfortable VR experiences will continue to be cockpit-style games? So there's two questions. I don't think that the most comfortable VR experiences are cockpit games right now.
I think the most comfortable VR experiences are God Cam games with fixed cameras.
More or less, or very slight movement on the cameras.
Yeah.
The cockpit games I think are relatively easy, but I've also played some cockpit game demos that made me sick faster than anything else. I think the takeaway on the VR stuff from all the things that we've seen is that if you don't follow the rules of VR about moving the camera and messing with people's perception, you're going to make people really, really sick way faster than you think. I don't know. I don't have a space for a 15-foot room or 12 by 12 room in my house. There's no room in my house for that. So I don't know what I'm going to do about Steam VR when that stuff's available. What do you think, Norm?
I think most of those games aren't going to require a 15 by 15 space, and that's going to be the fringe stuff, and that's really sad. I mean, I think VR enthusiasts really want that content.
I mean, the cable management alone.
I think cable management is a solvable problem. I think the bigger problem is the chicken and egg of how much it costs to make a game and how much people are willing to pay for those VR experiences. And I think, if you're going to pay for a VR system and let's say you're in a small group of, the market is under 100,000 people who have 10 by 10 rooms. I think VR developers should, if they make great games, they should be able to charge a lot of money for that.
I mean, the thing I can see is a return to the LAN party day where, when if somebody releases, I think we're still going to see two things. I think we're going to see two things when VR headsets are widely available. I think we're going to see like tech demo-y type small things that you maybe you buy them in the stores and they cost a couple of bucks, like app prices that are short 10 or 15 minute kind of experiences akin to the early Oculus demos, the stuff that we showed on the site really, really early on the Rift. And then I think we'll also see some longer games that are going to be sit-down experiences. I think we might see more of the stand-up experiences. And my hunch is that people will kind of get together. You might clear out the room for the day and to try a bunch of different shit.
I think app pricing is kind of is really hurt. It's going to hurt VR, the undervalued software market, games market, and people can get away. One of the reasons that apps are so cheap, games are cheap on mobile or free, and free to play is so successful is because the market is so big. And when you look at something like Gear VR, where you're plugging in the phone and buying what's equivalent of a mobile game because you're playing it on a mobile phone, but it's a different experience. Those games are $5 to $15, and they can be short, they can be long. But it still took a lot of work to make them, and the market is not nearly as big as the Android ecosystem or the iOS ecosystem. So I think that the expectations for VR have to be different than the expectations from a consumer standpoint, what you're paying for, different than playing a mobile game, even though the hardware may be similar.
And I think that's it. I think that's all the questions we got for today. Did we talk about? I don't think we talked about this. But this was a good question from a couple weeks ago. Tyke asked about flying quadcopters. I've been watching your quadcopter videos and reading your articles. I purchased a few small quads to practice on while planning to get a larger quad with a camera, such as a Phantom 1 or 2. Would love to fly it at my cabin on the Flathead Lake in Montana. Are quads stable, reliable enough to confidently fly over water after a good bit of practice flying over land with it? Would it be better to find a waterproof quad? I read the article you posted about the waterproof chase drones, but I would like to have a quad that I can fly around on my own. I mean, we fly over water some.
How big is he talking about? He didn't specify.
I'll go look at Flathead Lake on the maps.
How big of a quadcopter?
Oh, he said Phantom 1 or 2.
Oh, Phantom 1 or 2. Over water, no problem.
Yeah. Like the nano quads, I wouldn't fly over water, but they're $15, so if you lose them, it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. Phantoms you could fly over water, and it's at your own risk, of course. But as long as you keep it within the range, and if you're talking about over a lake as opposed to over the ocean, the wind is not going to be nearly as bad.
Well, it depends on the lake. Some lakes get real windy. But that is a good point. If your wind's more than look at the top speed of your quad, and look at the speed of the wind on any given day, and if the wind is more than the top speed of your quad, it'll only be able to go one direction. Yeah.
And you know what? Always take it up. If you have a problem, take the quad up, and
altitude buys you time.
Yep.
The big thing I think about flying quads over, if you're building a kit quad, a lot of the stuff on the quad is actually pretty brushless motors don't get destroyed by water, right? You have to dry them out and they'll keep working again. The frame won't get destroyed by water. It might sink. The batteries will get torched. The electronics will all get destroyed. But in the great scheme of things, that's probably half the price of the quad. So, you're not going to put floaties on it and you put a piece of styrofoam around it that'll float the whole thing. Even if it goes down in the lake, you won't be out the whole price of the quad. You'll be out a few $100s. Yeah. Did you see the story on ours about the guy in Central California whose quad was shot down?
No, by what?
So a neighbor, he was flying his quad over his parents' orchard. Kid lives in San Francisco, was visiting his family, and his neighbor saw it, thought it was a CIA surveillance drone, so he got his kid to shoot it down with a shotgun.
Nice.
It destroyed a couple of components, a few $100, $700 worth of stuff. The guy said, "Look, you broke my quad. It was over my property. I have GPS data to prove that." Because it was a home built quad and he had RG Pilot stuff, and
lawsuit
took him to small claims court
and
ended up winning.
Nice.
He originally sent a letter that said, "Hey, if you pay for this, we'll drop it, and I just want the replacement value of the parts." The guy said, "I'll split the difference with you." He was like, "No, fuck that. I haven't done anything wrong. You shot down something over my property. Go to hell." And took him to small claims court. Won. And now he's going to have to collect. And I think he won like $2,000 because attorney's fees or whatever.
Yeah.
Time spent, yada, yada. But so, yeah, don't shoot down quads is the lesson. And I think that'll do it for us today. We're off. We're closing down on Thursday and Friday. We'll still have some videos on the site. Podcast is obviously up today. It's Thursday. And then we'll be at Comic-Con all next week, so things will be a little light.
So plenty of videos.
Plenty of stuff to see. More DARPA stuff. Some other good stuff coming up next week. I think that's it. I think that's it for us this week. Norm, you're N-Chan. I'm Will Smith.
That's right.
On Twitters. If you're coming to the party, don't forget to RSVP. If you can't make it for the 8 o'clock and you RSVP, you'll be on the member list and you get in before the general admission people. So that's the other nice thing about being a member at our party at Comic-Con. And it's not too late to get the Adam poster. If you're a premium member already and you're not going to and you're going to resubscribe between now and the end of July, you'll get the poster when you renew your subscription, when you renew your premium membership. If you do not resubscribe during that time period, we're going to have a way towards the end of July for you to add some more time to your subscription or do something that will let you get the poster. We're not going to, if you aren't going to get the poster naturally, we're not going to not let you get the poster. We want everybody who wants the poster to be able to get the poster, and you should want to get the poster. It's rad. So that's it for us this week. We'll see you all next week from Comic-Con.
Woo.
Today's outro is brought to you by Emil. Thanks, Emil. We're out of outros, so if you want to send more outros, raw outro song file on Google will take you to the page with all the information you need to get the file. Here's today's outro.
The older you get, the less
there we go.
I didn't see it.
Test it.
The older you get, the less capable you are of beating a 15-year-old.
Very true. When you post the files to SoundCloud, make sure you mark them downloadable. If you don't mark them downloadable, I have to play them in the player. And then stuff like this happens where I play the Hyperlight Drifter song and we get in trouble with YouTube. See you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Star Wipe.